Okay, so while waiting, right, I think that most of you should know already, next week we don't have class, okay, so because it's Raya, so we actually follow the TDC calendar law, which means next week we are whole week off, okay, so by the way, in the WhatsApp group, right, you all can see I just sent in the, what is that, the Google Doc for the June notes. So to receive the June notes, you have to fill in your details inside the Google Doc. Oh, yeah, I sent a bit late, compare maybe other subjects you already received and maybe already filled up. Okay, but no mind. Okay, so yep, that's it. So we wait a while more, a few more minutes as usual. Okay, just to let you all know, right, during the holidays next week, right, I will post a quiz on inside the Google Classroom. So the quiz will be just like previously one more, which is just objective question. Okay, so to make sure that you all don't forget anything. Okay, so the quiz is very simple one. It's just objective question. So you actually can refer your notes and do one. So the question mainly will be on this notes, means the chapter 9 book 1. Okay, maybe I will add in a few previous chapters. I'll see how. Okay, so just to let you know. All right, so I think we will start now. Okay, now, so for chapter 9, this is actually book 1 only. All right, whereby book 1 we will mainly learn about the human digestive system. All right, so human digestive system will involve mainly 4 processes. Okay, obviously you have digestion, where we went through it last week itself already. And today we will continue right after what happens right after digestion. So for example, after when you digest food, your nutrients will be absorbed, and then your body will carry out a process called assimilation. And lastly, you need to shit out the undigested food, which is called defecation. All right, so some of these you actually already learned it before, right, in Form 2. So we continue at page 6, absorption. Okay, so last week we already finished with digestion. Okay, all your food has already been digested. So the 3 main nutrients that is digested is protein, lipids, and carbohydrates. Whereby these 3 nutrients, right, is digested into number 1, amino acid. For fats, it became glycerol and fatty acid. And for carbohydrates, it's been digested into monosaccharides, which include glucose, fructose, galactose. Okay, so but during absorption and assimilation at that time, right, we actually will only mention glucose. Okay, so we just lump all the carbohydrates into just glucose. We won't say like fructose is absorbed, galactose is absorbed. No, we just mention glucose. Okay, so these 3 nutrients later will be absorbed and assimilated. Okay, so let's go through absorption first. So absorption actually in Form 2 we learned before. What is that? So it's a process that takes place in the ileum, whereby ileum we learned last week is the final portion of the small intestine. Okay, whereby nutrients such as glucose, amino acids, and your glycerol, fatty acid is absorbed into liver and into the cells in the blood stream. Okay, so when it goes to the bloodstream, it's actually being delivered to your cells. So which means for absorption, right? Okay, we're going to learn how the 3 nutrients we mentioned above just now is going to be absorbed into the liver and into the cells inside the blood. So this is the 2 final destination whereby nutrients needs to be delivered to. Okay, now before we get to that, okay, as we learned before previously, nutrients is being absorbed through the villus inside the small intestine. So in the small intestine, there's a lot of hair, blue structures inside on the wall of your small intestine. So these blue hair-like structures are called villus. Villus is singular, villi is plural. So whichever also it's acceptable. Now, so on the villi or the villus itself, right, there are 3 main structures you must know. The outermost layer of the villus, right, is surrounded by these cells called epithelial cells, which is these cells you can see all over here. Okay. So no matter what nutrients you are, glucose, amino acid, or even lipids, you first have to pass through the epithelial first, then only you can muscle the villi. Okay. As soon as you enter the villi through the epithelial cell, inside the villus there are another two structures, which is called the lacteal and the blood capillary. Okay. So different type of nutrients, right, will enter either lacteal or blood capillary. Okay, so this is where the second part, whereby nutrients will enter, either they enter lacteal or blood capillary. So what kind of nutrients will enter lacteal? What kind of nutrients will enter blood capillary, right? Okay, very simple. Our nutrients, right, is basically in this moment, right, nutrients is basically classified into two types. Okay, whereby lacteal will absorb lipid soluble nutrients. Okay, fatty acid glycerol, whereby blood capillary will absorb non-lipid soluble substances, or we also can say water soluble, because water and lipid is two opposite things, as we mentioned in chapter 3. So for example, glucose amino acid will enter blood capillary. Okay, and then where does it go next? Okay, that one later first. So now we just go through the structures. Okay, now one more thing is on the surface of the epithelial cells, right? Okay, I'm not sure whether you can see, but here there's actually on the surface of the epithelial cell, there's a lot more smaller tiny hairs on the epithelial cell. It's like on the villi itself, you have smaller villi on it. On the bulu, you got smaller bulu on it. Okay, so these hairs on the epithelial cell, you should also learn this before last time. It is called the microvilli. Okay, they are like smaller villi on the villi, as you can see over here. Okay, so before we go through the process, right? Okay, first we need to learn the adaptation of small intestine for absorption of nutrients, which is the adaptation of the villi. Okay, so this part here is something that we learn in Form 4 Chapter 8. Remember, we have gases exchange which occurs at the respiratory structure, like for example, alveolus and blood capillary. So for gases exchange to occur efficiently, right, the alveolus, or in animals, their respiratory structure will have certain adaptation, okay, to allow gases exchange to occur efficiently. So here also the same, okay, in order for absorption, okay, now it's talking about absorption, to carry out efficiently, right, the villus must have specific adaptation, whereby you can see here the adaptation is very similar to what we learned in chapter 8. So first, it has many microvilli. So same like we learned in chapter 8, you need to state adaptation and then explain adaptation. So the keyword here is many, banyak, a lot. Okay, so if just like in human pneumonia respiration, if you have a lot of alveolus, this will provide larger surface area to increase rate of nutrients absorption. Okay, so what do you mean by that? So if you have a lot of microvilli, okay, so this is the surface of the villi over here. If on top of the surface of the villi, I have a lot of microvilli, as you can see over here. Okay, this will actually increase surface area for absorption, because now my nutrients can be absorbed throughout this entire surface. So the surface is sort of has been extended compared to the normal surface over here. So if I have larger surface area, the nutrients can enter, diffuse faster. Okay, now, oops. Other than that, thin wall, which is one cell thick. So this is the exact same thing we learned in last chapter. So the wall of the villus is only thin as only one cell. So it is very thin. Nutrients can be absorbed rapidly, quickly. Thin can pass through very fast. Okay. Now, next is it has a network of blood capillaries. So again, the keyword here is net. Sorry, my pen recently got problem. Okay, network of blood capillaries. So again, the keyword here is network. So the shape of our blood capillaries is in the shape of net. Okay, so same thing. This will provide larger surface area for absorption of nutrients. Okay, so the explanation actually ends here. Okay, the following point here actually is stating the types of nutrients that is mainly absorbed through the blood capillaries. Like I say, blood capillaries mainly absorb non-lipid nutrients. So primarily including the glucose and amino acid. Other than that, you also have minerals, water, soluble substances such as vitamin B and C. Because as we learned previously, lipid vitamin is ADEK. So opposite of lipid soluble vitamin is water soluble vitamin, which is B and C. So the last thing is lactale. For lactale, the explanation you just have to say it absorbs fat substances, which includes fatty acids, glycerol, and the vitamin ADEK. Okay, so this is the adaptation. Okay, now. So next, we'll go through the processes of absorption of nutrients. So like I said, absorption of nutrients is categorized into two types of nutrients. Okay, number one is the non-lipid nutrients, whereby they are absorbed through the epithelial cells into blood capillaries. Okay, and the second is absorption of lipid nutrients, which is absorbed through the epithelial cells into lactates. So I already mentioned to you just now, when inside the villus that time, nutrients will have two pathways, either the enterolactale or the blood capillary. Okay, now, so let's look at the non-lipid one first. So as I said, non-lipid one, usually questions will ask these two, glucose, amino acid. It's like sort of like fixed already when you always ask these two one. Okay, because these are the main nutrients. So what am I showing you over here is the pathway of nutrients being delivered to the liver and the cells. Okay, don't need to 1, 2, 3. Being delivered to the liver and the cells in the bloodstream. Because like I said just now, absorption is whereby nutrients being absorbed into these two places, liver and cells in the bloodstream. So how do they actually reach there? So these are the steps and the processes. Okay, so over here, question might ask something like, they will say, explain how glucose is absorbed into liver, for example. Okay, so this could be around 3 to 5 marks. Okay, 3 marks is usually for structure, 5 marks is usually for essay, 4, 5 marks like that. Okay, now, so number one, the nutrients have to enter the villus first. So in order to enter the villus, it has to pass through the epithelial cell, because epithelial cell is the outer layer of the villus. So we can say that, we can say here, glucose and amino acid diffuses into the villus through epithelial cell. Okay, so that's the first thing it needs to pass through. And then if it's essay question, we actually can add in the process. So you can say diffuse through the epithelial cells by facilitated diffusion and active transport. If it's structure, you don't have to mention that because there's more than enough points already. Okay, so just to remind yourself, only for essay we write this. Okay. Now, so once I pass through the epithelial cell, okay, go back to the diagram here. The nutrients, basically the glucose amino acid is already inside the villus or the villi. So since it's non-lipid, it will definitely enter the blood capillaries. So over here we can say in the villi, because now I'm inside the villi already. So I say in villi, glucose then diffuses into the blood capillaries. Once I'm inside the blood capillary, then the glucose will flow into the blood and slowly go into the liver. So how does it go to the liver? Okay, before I proceed, we look at this diagram over here first. So you can see between the small intestine over here, or the ileum, and the liver, in between these two organs, right, there's actually a blood vessel that connects these two organs together. So that blood vessel here is called the hepatic portal vein, which means all this network of blood capillary eventually will merge into one blood vessel called hepatic portal vein, and you'll be transported to the liver. Okay, so if you look here, all the blood vessel eventually comes together and merge into one blood vessel over here. What we call is the arteriole. Arteriole means the artery, like a blood vessel, basically. So eventually, they will merge into one, and then you carry the nutrients to the liver. Okay, so from here, you just have to say blood capillary, then, okay, I give you a word here, merges into hepatic portal vein. And then you see, and then hepatic portal vein transports the glucose to liver. Okay, so in the liver is whereby they will carry out a process called assimilation, which we'll go through later. Okay, so from the liver, then they will use the nutrients to carry out assimilation to do something else. Okay, so after that, then only there will be another blood vessel that comes out from the liver, and then only they will transport the remaining nutrients to the body cell. So liver is actually like a checkpoint like that, which means, for example, if there's 100 glucose being transported to the liver might use up 60 of them, and then only the remaining 40 will be transported to the body cell. It's sort of like custom, they have to collect tax first. Okay, so usually questions will just ask how is it transported to the liver. If they say ask how is it transported to the cell, you just have to add one more step. Okay, then you can say from the liver, glucose is then transported into cells, into bloodstream. That's it. Okay, can? Very simple. Okay, so that's how we explain absorption of glucose and amino acid. Okay, next is absorption of epithelial cells into lacteals. So for lipids one, there's more points to write. Okay, now what I mean by more points, okay, as you will see later. Okay, just to remind you, just a heads up to let you know, lipid do not enter liver. Okay, which means lipid don't need to pass through the checkpoint one. They straight away transported to the cells inside your blood. Okay, right. So the first step is still the same. Means lipids still have to pass through, glycerol, fatty acids still have to pass through epithelial cell in order to enter the villi first. So just like chapter 3 we learned, glycerol, fatty acid, vitamin A, D, K, the type of transport they undergo is simple diffusion. So again, if it's assay question, we say that glycerol fatty acid diffuses into villi through epithelial cell by simple diffusion. Okay, so now, just like just now, the lipids now inside the villus already. So for lipids, they will enter lacteal. But before they enter lacteal, there's something that will happen to this glycerol and fatty acid. Okay, look at the sentence over here. So I label here number 2. Okay, in the epithelial cell, means before I enter the lacteal, the glycerol and fatty acid will combine through condensation to become back lipid. Means that just now previously during digestion last week we learned lipid breaks down into glycerol fatty acid. But after when they enter epithelial cell, before they enter a lacteal, they will undergo condensation and become back the large molecule lipid. Okay, then only they will diffuse into the lacteal. Okay, so for lipids, it's slightly different. They will combine back, then enter the lacteal. Okay, so from here onwards, it's obviously different compared to glucose amino acid. That's why here I put in red color. Okay, because lacteal will not connect to blood capillaries. Okay, lacteal will connect to something called lymphatic vessel. So here the same way we can write, okay, lacteal, then we can say merges into lymphatic vessel, means it connects to the lymphatic vessel. Okay. All right. So before we proceed, okay, we look back at the diagram on top here. So now we focus on the lacteal. Okay, the green color thing in the center over here. So you can see lacteal will merge into this green color vessel at the bottom here, which is called the lymphatic vessel. Okay, so lymphatic vessel, we'll learn this in next chapter. Lymphatic vessel actually is a part of a system called the lymphatic system. Okay, what exactly this system does, we will go through that at the next chapter. For now, just remember lymphatic system and the blood circulatory system is basically connected. Means lymphatic vessel, as it flows in your body, eventually, when it flows, it will eventually connect back to your blood circulatory system. And from there, the blood then will transport the lipids to your body cell. Okay, so if you look back here, the name of the blood vessel that the lymphatic vessel connects to is called the subclavian vein. Okay, so we can say, okay, lacteal merges into lymphatic vessel. Lymphatic vessel then continue, we say merges into subclavian vein. And then you just mentioned, lastly, subclavian vein transports, okay, the lipids to cells in the bloodstream. Okay, so you just have to like connect all the vessels together on this. So you can say lacteal. Actually, don't exactly have to use the word merge. You can use other words. You can say like the lacteal then joins to the lymphatic vessel, or you can say the lipid from the lacteal flows into the lymphatic vessel, flows into subclavian vein, also can. Okay, there's no specific keyword word here you need to follow. Just make sure that you join the correct vessels together. Okay, so subclavian vein is basically in your blood circulatory system already, so it returns back to your blood. Okay, and then from there, the blood will flow to the cells in the bloodstream. Okay, understand? Or can? Okay, right? Yep, so for lipids, the steps slightly different a bit. Okay, so remember, lipid, when it passes through the epithelial cell, before it goes into the lacteal, it needs to become back lipid first, combine back together. Then once it enters the lacteal will then join to the lymphatic vessel. Lymphatic vessel then merge into subclavian vein, and subclavian vein transport it to the cells in the bloodstream. Okay, so this is how we explain absorption of the two nutrients. Okay, so if you look at this diagram on the top here, okay, so you can see that I'm pointing here, the lipid soluble substances, like the glycerol, fatty acid, all, they don't go to the liver. So you can see the arrow here straight away points to the body cell. Okay, it means it will go into lymphatic vessel, subclavian vein, then body cells. Okay. Okay, ma. Okay, All right. So that's it for absorption. Now we will continue with the next process, assimilation. All right. Any questions for absorption? Okay, Okay. So assimilation, what is that? So as you can see, it takes place in the liver and cells, whereby the nutrients, just now such as the absorbed nutrients, which is include the glucose, amino acid, fats, all, are used to form complex compounds or structural components. Means this is where assimilation is basically a process whereby your body uses nutrients to form components or compounds in your body. Okay, so they are sort of like the raw material of the body. So I give you one example here. For example, amino acids is used to form enzymes in your body. Okay, sort of like if you want to build a house, you need raw material. You need sand, you need cement, you need bricks, all of these kind of things. Okay, so in your body, you need protein to form the muscles, you need carbohydrates to give you energy, for example. Okay, yeah. So before we go through assimilation, this process, right? Okay, we will go through the overall function of the liver first. So before we go through the function, before we go through assimilation, right? Okay, so we go through the functions of the liver first. So liver, number one, obviously it carries out assimilation. So that's the main process, assimilation. So they say a metabolism of digested food. So yes, assimilation means body metabolism, whereby your body uses nutrients to make something else. So like we mentioned just now, nutrients are used to form other complex compounds. So that is the main function of liver, assimilation. Okay, so besides that, liver also carries out detoxification. Okay, detoxification is a process whereby liver expels toxic substance in the blood, such as alcohol. Okay, so for example, you can see, right, every food that you eat will be first absorbed into the liver. Besides fats, other than fats, nutrients that you eat will be first absorbed into the liver. So your liver will then carry out detoxification on the food that you eat. Means it will remove the toxic substance from your food, such as alcohol. Okay, and other than that, liver also stores nutrients. So later we will learn, if you eat too much glucose, your liver will convert it into glycogen and store it inside your liver. Okay, so we get more to that later. Now, so here I just give you the disease that could occur to your liver. Okay, if you don't take care of it. What we mean take care of it means that if you don't, eat or drink healthily. For example, people who always like to drink alcohol will have liver damage. It's because the liver needs to work extra hard to carry out detoxification. So therefore, your liver damage more easily. So this is called liver cirrhosis. So they also say that if you always sleep late, also could cause liver damage, because if you always keep sleeping late, there will be more toxic substance in your blood. So therefore, same thing, your liver have to work extra harder to remove the toxic from your blood. Okay, so now to the main processes, assimilation in liver and cells, because nutrients already reach the liver and cells, as we mentioned in the last topic. So this is where assimilation occurs. So first we look at liver. So as you can see, right, in assimilation of liver, there's actually no lipids, remember. Okay, it's because, okay, lipid it's not transported to the liver. Okay, so we start with glucose first, simpler. Number one, excess glucose will be converted into glycogen and stored in the liver. Okay, so I think this one I got mentioned briefly before in chapter 4. So glycogen actually is like a reserve energy like that. So because as we know, glucose, why do we need glucose in your body? So glucose mainly is for cells to carry cellular respiration to give us energy, right? We learned this in chapter 7, cellular respiration chapter. Okay, so if you eat too much glucose, too much sweet things, and then you don't use the energy, you still will go to sleep. So basically your body does not need the glucose. So therefore, your body will convert it into glycogen, which is basically reserved energy. Okay, and you will store it in your liver in case you need to use it. Okay, what do you mean by in case you need to use it? So, for example, when blood glucose level falls and body needs energy. So let's say if you don't eat anything for long hours and then you go and exercise, you go and work out, for example. So if you don't eat food, obviously your blood glucose will be low. And let's say if you need to use energy, your body will then convert the glycogen back into glucose, which is the reserve energy that we had just now. Okay, so here I already summarize what happens to glucose in the liver. Glucose becomes glycogen, glycogen can become back to glucose. Okay, what's these two things? Insulin, glucagon. Insulin and glucagon is basically the two hormones that carry out the two following process. So for example, insulin is the hormone that is secreted to convert glucose into glycogen. Glucagon is likewise is the hormone that is secreted to convert glycogen back to glucose. Okay, so just to let you know, these two hormones, okay, is actually being secreted by pancreas. Okay, we learn more about it when we go through the hormone punya chapter. So even though the process occurs in the liver, but the hormone originates from the pancreas. Okay, yeah, just to let you know. Now, here one more sentence is say, when the storage of glycogen in liver is full, glucose will then be converted into lipids. So remember, your liver has limited storage of glycogen. Once, if it's full and you still continue to eat sugar, glucose, your body will then now convert it into fats and store it under your skin. This is why we always say that eating too much sugar, carbs, sweet things will lead to fat, obesity, and all is because of this reason. No? Okay? Now, next is protein. So you can see what happened to protein, amino acid. I already summarized for you over here. Okay, go through one by one. Number one, liver synthesizes plasma protein using amino acid. Plasma protein is a type of protein found inside your blood plasma. What does it actually do? It's actually mainly needed for blood clotting. We'll learn that next chapter. Next is they say when body lacks glucose and glycogen, amino acid is used to convert into glucose. Okay, so let's say if you stuck in the jungle for many days, okay, glucose also habis, glycogen also habis, your body then now will convert amino acid, which is your protein, to give you energy. Okay, convert it into glucose. Okay, and the last one, the most important one, excess amino acid in your body will be converted into urea through deamination. And then you will then excrete, pee out the urea when you urine. No? So basically, this process is the same thing for glucose. So if you have excess glucose, how does your body get rid of the excess one? They will convert it into glycogen stored in your liver. But if you have excess amino acid, they will convert it into urea. So remember the process is called deamination. And then you excrete it out. Okay, so this is the reason why certain people, like those kind of bodybuilders especially, so those are the people that always take in a lot of protein to build more muscle. So at times they might take excess of the protein. So a lot of these bodybuilders, when they are old, right, they will suffer from how to say high uric acid inside their blood. So urea is actually acidic one. So too much of this will cause blood to become acidic. So it can lead to kidney failure, liver damage, and so on. So they are more common to suffer from this. Okay. Now, so that is assimilation in liver. That's what nutrients happens inside the liver. Okay. Next is assimilation in cells. So you can see in cells, you have all the three nutrients. It's because unlike the liver, all nutrients eventually will reach your body cells, whereby for liver, only glucose and amino acid reaches them. All right. So now what happens to protein in cells? Why do cells need protein? So number one, they need it to repair damaged cells and tissues. means that if like any cells or tissues is really damaged, they need protein endochromatosis to replace the damaged one. Cells also need protein to synthesize enzyme and hormones for you, and also used to synthesize the proteins of plasma membrane. So as we learned in chapter 3, the plasma membrane consists of the pore protein, carrier protein, remember? So yeah, those are basically made of protein now. Okay, next, glucose. Cells, what do they do with glucose? So as we did mention just now, cells use glucose to release energy during cellular respiration. No? So they use it to produce energy. So like we learned in chapter 7, oxygen oxidizes glucose to give you energy. So this process is cellular respiration. No? Okay. Next, excess glucose is also stored as glycogen in the muscle cells. So your muscles also can store glucose in the form of glycogen, not just the liver. Okay. Now, next, the lipids. So what do cells do with lipids? Lipids are used to synthesize phospholipids and cholesterol of plasma membrane. So again, like we did in chapter 3, the plasma membrane, besides having pore and carrier protein, they also have phospholipids and cholesterol. So these two is made up of basically fats, lipids. And last, excess lipids in body are stored in the adipose tissue as reserve energy. So your body basically uses 3 things to generate energy. Okay, glucose, protein, and lipids. So lipid is like the third source of energy. If glucose and protein runs out, then your body will use fats. Okay, so if you eat too much fats, your body will store it under your skin. So under your skin, there's a layer of fat. That layer of fat is called adipose tissue. So this is where excess fat is being stored for reserve energy. Understand? So the more fats you have, the more reserve energy you have. Okay? Can I? Yep. So that's it. We are done with assimilation. Okay. So remember, in liver, you do not have assimilation of lipids. Okay? Can I? So you can see, right? In a way, liver also carries out one very important thing, which is that liver, why does liver need to carry out assimilation? Okay, one of the main functions of assimilation of liver, right, is actually to control the amount of nutrients in your blood. Because if you look at these 2 sentences here, okay, this one and this one, if there's too much of certain nutrients, right, your liver will convert it into something else. So this is to prevent excess of certain nutrients inside your blood. It's because if there's too much glucose in your blood, it leads to diabetes. Too much protein will lead to dehydration and so on. Okay, so that's what your liver does as well, control nutrients in your blood. Okay, cannot? Okay, the last process. So once absorption and assimilation is done, the remaining foods that have no more nutrients in it and cannot be digested will be shit out from your body. So the shitting process is called defecation. No? Okay, so here defecation, I didn't write the definition, so you'll add yourself. Defecation is the process, okay, of eliminating, okay, undigested food. Okay, so whatever that cannot be digested will be eliminated through the process of defecation, or whatever we commonly say as shit. Okay. So this process will take place in your large intestine. So after the ileum, the small intestine, food then will enter the large intestine. So in large intestine, there's no more digestion, of course. Okay, so large intestine have 4 main parts: cecum. Okay, the first one is pronounced as cecum, colon, rectum, and anus. So cecum is the first part of the large intestine. Nothing much occurs over here, basically nothing. This small thing here, okay, and you label it as appendix. Appendix also have nothing much that relates to the digestive system, so just need to know the label, don't need to know the function. Okay, the most important part of your large intestine is this entire section. Okay, the blue, green, and yellow color one. So this is the longest section of your large intestine and is known as the colon. You don't have to remember ascending, transverse, descending. Yeah, just in our syllabus, you just remember the whole thing as colon. Okay, and after that, actually, colon is up to here, and then you have rectum, and lastly, anus. Okay, so cecum no function, so we skip to colon. So colon is the longest and the most important part. So the main process that occurs inside the colon is reabsorption of water, minerals, and the vitamin B and K. Okay, so because inside your ileum, maybe they might left out certain things to absorb. Okay, maybe they didn't absorb everything properly. So in large intestine is whereby they will reabsorb. It means that they will make sure everything is absorbed. So it's called reabsorb because they absorb one more time. Okay, so it's called reabsorption, right? So after when water and all these minerals has been absorbed, feces are then formed. So feces is the shit. Okay, so what is inside your feces? So feces basically consists of undigested food, mainly of course undigested food. There are dead cells from your intestine walls, dead bacteria, bile, toxic substance, and also indigestible fiber. Yes, fiber is undigested one. Fiber cannot be digested one. So fiber just help in defecation process as you learned before. Okay. Now, just to let you know, okay, an additional knowledge for you all. By the way, bile is the main reason why human feces, not just human feces, but most animal feces are brown in color. Okay, so remember we learned about bile last week. Bile is something that is secreted by your liver, whereby its function is to carry out emulsify lipids into lipid droplets. Remember we learned that last week. So emulsify means it breaks down the fats into smaller pieces. Okay, so bile will remain in your food up until defecation. So bile is actually the main reason why feces is brown in color. Okay, so just to let you know. So other than that, the wall of colon will secrete mucus also to allow feces to move smoothly, like acts a lubricant like that. Okay, once colon has reabsorbed everything, the feces then will be stored in the rectum. So as you also learned before in Form 2, rectum is the place of temporary storage for feces. So it will store the feces until morning when you wake up when you need to go to the toilet. Okay, so this is when defecation occurs. So at your anus, defecation occurs when the rectum muscles contract. So every time when you try to squeeze the shit out, the time you shit, that time is where you're actually contracting your rectum muscle. So when the muscle here contracts, okay, the anus muscle here will relax, and that's when your shit will come out. Okay, so rectum muscles contract, feces eliminated through the body. This process is known as defecation. So it obviously occurs through the anus now. Okay, cannot. Yep. So when defecation occurs, then that is the end of the entire human digestive system. Okay, so that's it for today's syllabus. Is there anything to understand more? Okay. Okay, so if it's okay, we will just go behind to do a few questions only. Questions very simple one today. Okay. Right. Let's look at page 12 first. Okay, I need to fill up this diagram. Okay, we fill together. Okay, here there's a lot of labeling here. Actually, the main thing here I want you to focus on is only these two blood vessels. Okay, because these two blood vessels is not in the notes one, but you still need to know it because question asked. Okay, so if you look at the okay, go back, look at the notes, compare side by side. Okay, if you look at the right hand side one, right, the questions one, there are actually two additional blood vessels that goes in and out of the liver, whereby it's not shown over here. Okay, so first, before we label these two, right, okay, we look at this blood vessel. So this blood vessel is the blood vessel that connects the small intestine to your liver. All right, so that blood vessel we already mentioned is this one over here, called the hepatic portal vein. Right, so we just label here hepatic portal vein. Okay, then we focus on these two. So you can see there's a blood vessel that comes from the heart and goes into the liver. So this blood vessel actually is called the hepatic artery. So actually all organs have a blood vessel that originates from the heart because all organs inside have living cells. Cells need oxygen to survive. So they receive oxygenated blood from the heart. So they need a blood vessel, which is an artery, to transport it to them. Okay, then there will be a vein that comes out from the liver. So it needs to transport the deoxygenated blood back to the heart. So this is called the hepatic vein. So by the way, this is also the same blood vessel that carries the nutrients to your body cells throughout your body, because this is the only blood vessel that comes out from your liver. Okay, so remember just now, for example, I say the 60% of glucose is used up, then the remaining 40 will enter this hepatic vein and go to the rest of your body. Okay, now here is another two blood vessels. Okay, these two blood vessels are actually not related to our topic today one, but you actually did learn it before in Form 3 one, and you also will learn it again in next chapter. So this, okay, we look at number one first. Number one is the blood vessel that carries deoxygenated blood back to your heart. So who can tell me, who remember what blood vessel is this called? Learn in Form 3 one. Anyone? What's this blood vessel that carries deoxygenated blood back to your heart? So it really gives you a hint, it's the vena. Okay, yes, very good. It is the vena cava. Okay, and then this one also you learned before one. This is the blood vessel that carries deoxygenated blood, carries oxygenated blood out from your heart to the rest of your body. So this blood vessel is called aorta. Yes, excellent. Okay. Now actually these two are important one. Okay, this is just blood vessel to digestive tract, and yeah, nothing much one. Okay. Cannot. Yep. There's the two main things I want to highlight to you: hepatic vein, hepatic artery. Okay, so now we will do some actual questions. We will go to question 8, page 25. Okay, so this question involves the absorption and also the assimilation. So usually questions will ask absorption and assimilation together. Okay, yeah, because it's like two related process. So A, they say, name the structure shown in diagram 3.1. So this is what structure? Easy, right? Obviously, this is called the, what is this called? This is obviously your fetus. No? Okay. Now, how the structure name in A1 is adapted to its function. So structure name in A1 adapted to its function. So again, the adaptation, and then you need to explain how the adaptation works. So like out of the few adaptation we learned just now, what do they have? What's the adaptation of villus? Okay, has many microvilli, acceptable. Okay, has many microvilli. Okay, so keyword many. So if I have many, a lot, how does this help? This will provide what? This will provide, so if I have many, this will provide larger, yes, surface area to increase the rate of absorption. So don't just say provide large surface area. Okay, try to complete it more. So if you have larger surface area means nutrients can be absorbed faster. So you can say provide larger surface area to increase rates of absorption. How? Next, state the function of x and y in absorption. So x and y. So before we state the function, you need to know what is x and y. Okay, so we look here, zoom in for you. X, the center part of the villi, that is obviously your, what's x? So you can see x, inside the villus, there's only two things. So the center one, that is the tail, and surrounding the lacteal one is your blood capillaries. So they ask you the function of lacteal and blood capillaries in absorption. So what do you mean by function of these two in absorption? So means that you have to state what do they absorb during absorption. So for lacteal, X, what do they absorb? So X absorbs what? What kind of nutrients do they absorb? Like, everyone? Okay, lipid soluble substance. Actually, don't have to say lipid soluble substance. You can just say lipids will do. Yeah, lipid soluble substance is just the term I use to let you remember, but you just use lipid. Can already. Why don't say absorb non-lipid? If you have to be specific, you have to say absorb. Okay, glucose and amino acid. Okay. C. How glucose is absorbed into structure in 3.1 and transported to the liver. Okay, so how glucose is absorbed into the villi and go to the liver. Okay, so start from the villus first. So number one, to enter the villus. So they're asking how to enter villus and then how to go to liver. Okay, so how does it enter the villus first? Number one, what must I mention? So glucose needs to diffuse into what first? If I want to enter the villus, I need to go through what? Okay, yes, epithelial cell, correct. So number one, you must mention epithelial cell. So you have to say glucose diffuses into villi through epithelial cell. Epithelial cell, yes, correct. So Like I say, if this is assay, then only we say the transport law by facilitative diffusion and active transport. If it's not, then don't need. Okay, next. After epithelial cell, where does it go? So once I pass through epithelial cell, I'm inside the villi already, right? So inside the villi, next, I diffuse into what structure? So there's only two ma. Okay, we already mentioned here, if it's glucose, it will go through Y. Correct? So Y is vocabulary result, right? Yep, we already have the answers. So we just have to say in villi, glucose, then diffuses into blood capillaries. Okay, and then after blood capillaries, so diagram got no more answer already. After blood capillaries, what's the next? You connect to what? Before it gets to the liver, there's only one more thing it needs to pass through before it gets to the liver. So the blood capillaries eventually merge into the blood vessel called, yes, merges into hepatic portal vein. Okay, so you can see blood capillaries then merges into hepatic portal vein, and lastly, this vein will then carry the nutrients to the liver. Okay, so you can say merges into hepatic portal vein, and it's transported to liver. Settled easy. Okay, that's how we answer absorption. Okay, get on. Now, so screenshot the answer. All can. Right. Next question. So there's a schematic diagram representing the assimilation process in human. Explain the function of liver in assimilation. Okay, it's not a bit technical question. Okay, function of liver in assimilation. So number one, what does the liver do in assimilation? So again, assimilation is whereby you use nutrients to convert to something else. So one of the main reasons why you want to convert nutrients to something else, right, is to form things in your body. Okay, like amino acid becomes plasma protein inside the liver. Remember? So you can say nutrients, okay, in liver are used to form structural components and compounds components and other compounds. And number two, why does liver carry out assimilation? Why do they want to convert nutrients to something else? Like I mentioned just now, it is actually to control the amount of nutrients inside your blood. Make sure that your cell don't receive too much nutrients. Remember, if there's too much amino acid, it becomes urea. Too much of the sugar, it becomes glycogen. So they're trying to prevent excess nutrients in the blood. Right? So why they carry assimilation? It is to also control the amount of nutrients entering blood. Okay. Next, based in 3.2, explain the assimilation of nutrient P in liver. So nutrient P is carbohydrate become this, and then becomes something else. They didn't mention what is it here. So liver basically there's only two nutrients, there's only amino acid, and the other one is, so you can see this thing is used for cellular respiration in cells, so that is definitely glucose. Okay, so assimilation of nutrient P in liver. So what happens to glucose inside liver? Okay, converts into glycogen. So that's the first point. Yes, you can see excess nutrient P, which is glucose, is converted into glycogen. And then what's the second point? What happens to the glycogen next? You need to further mention what happens to the glycogen. So the glycogen, you must say, is stored in liver as reserve energy. Okay, next. Why assimilation of lipids do not occur directly in liver? So, lipids, now you have to explain why there's no assimilation of lipids in liver. So how are we going to explain this question? Okay, so in order to explain why liver assimilation doesn't take place in the liver, right, you actually have to explain, use the pathway of absorption of lipids to explain. So you got to show where does the lipid goes, which doesn't end up in the liver. So that would be your explanation. So technically you have to mention, okay, once I enter the epithelial cell already, the lipid and glucose will enter two different ways. So you need to mention in the villi onwards why lipid will not end up in the liver and why will it only end up in the cell. Okay, so you don't have to explain the full absorption process of lipid. You can start from once I'm inside the villi, means after I pass through the epithelial cell, because this is where the pathway of lipids and glucose will be different. Okay, one enter the lacteal and the other one will enter the blood capillary. Okay, so you just have to say, okay, in the villi, okay, lipids. So after epithelial cell, glycerol fatty acid become lipid again. So we just say in lipid, in villi, lipids diffuses into lacteal. Okay. After lacteal, where does it go? So just now blood is merged into hepatic portal vein. Lacteal will merge into what vessel? Okay, sorry. What vessel is next? Merges into lymphatic vessel. Yes, so should say that. Lacteal then merges into lymphatic vessel. And after lymphatic vessel is what? Lymphatic vessel then merges into, so remember, lymphatic vessel will eventually connect to your blood vessel. So what is the blood vessel that the lymph vessel connects to? Then merges to, okay, the blood vessel that is merged, that it merged into, remember, the name is called subclavian vein. Okay, subclavian vein, yes. And then lastly, just over there, and it is transported to the cells in bloodstream. So you need to prove that lipid doesn't passes through the liver. So this is how we explain, sort of explain like the absorption process. Okay, can write this one. All right, so the next question, question 9, this one, try to do yourself. It is an essay question. Okay, so this question you can see, okay, whoever have a screenshot, do a screenshot. If you want to copy it fast. Okay, all done. Okay, so the next question, right? Okay, this is essay, as you can see. Helmi takes fried chicken at lunch. Explain the absorption and assimilation process of lipid content. All right, so basically your answer obviously needs to divide into the absorption process and assimilation. Okay, so absorption for lipid can go up to 5 marks. Just now here's only 3 points because I haven't explained the full absorption process. In front here still got one more. Okay, you need to mention diffuse into the epithelial cell, then the glycerol fatty acid merge back. So there's 2 more points that I didn't mention. Okay, and then assimilation, I have 3 points. Okay, so for lipid assimilation obviously only takes place in the cells. So explain what the cells do with the lipids. Okay, this question here is also absorption and assimilation, but it is absorption and assimilation of amino acid. So they can see the marks lesser, easier. Okay, so for this question, they only want liver only. So you don't have to mention assimilation of amino acids inside cells. Don't have to mention how does the amino acid reaches the cell, which the liver can already. Okay. Now, for defecation, the question you do yourself, it is very simple only. Everything here I will mention at the questions in front already. Okay. So, except for the labeling here, there's a few a bit weird, which is like A and B. A actually is just pointing at normal punya blood vessels only. So this is actually just blood vessels, nothing complicated. B is actually pointing this organ that connects to the large intestine. So that's actually the ileum, or you can write small intestine. Okay, the rest, you should know what it is. Okay, go back and refer the notes and try the defecation questions yourself. Defecation is very simple, only nothing much. Okay, so today we will stop here. Okay, all can. So remember, next week, no class, but next week, I will prepare a quiz for you all. So just heads up. I might post it anytime. Okay, can no questions? Ready? Then we will end here lah. Okay, so we see you again 2 weeks later. Bye bye.